Darkcast Network. Indie pods with a dark side.
Oh! You are listening to Castles and Cryptids.
Woo!
Where the hosts are crazy.
We did it.
Sorry, we messed it up, but we can play our intro music now.
Yeah, so we got to listen to it, which we normally
do it
don't
in post.
do. We danced. Yeah, we danced while it played. And then got really happy when it worked properly.
Oh my god.
And there's your intro.
And
Welcome.
I'm Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
And you guys are the cryptic cuties, and this is where the castles are haunted and stuff. Oh my god. I love it.
Yeah.
And things and stuff.
And things and stuff.
That's so funny. It's a little peek behind the curtains there.
Yeah, we were like, we'll try this out. If it doesn't work, well, I said we'll leave it in anyway if it doesn't work.
Oh my god. It's the giggling.
We're trying.
Yeah, because that's not really a giggly song, you know? I know I've like some people, you're supposed to get hyped up for their podcast or whatever, but I always thought, ours was cool because it just kind of gets you in the little gonna hear a spooky story mood, but I don't know. Yeah,
creepy.
let us know if you like it. No, we're not gonna change it now, but if somebody made us a theme song,
it's been years,
like the way that they make theme songs for the How Did This Get Made people, they'll be like, sing us this one, like, and the people in the crowd will have a specific song made up, like a Weird Al style song about whatever movie they covered, and I'm like, that's
cool.
amazing. The talent.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
If one of our 50 listeners is a music producer, I'm really good. No, I'm just kidding. We love each and every one of you. What are we talking about today? Besides all our new advances in technology.
We have I don't know, murder, like murder mystery type things. Who done it? I don't know.
That's good.
Maybe we'll never know.
Yeah, murder mysteries.
It was a kind of it was kind of broad topic, I think.
Yeah. How did I write it in my notes? Because I'm weird. For the episode theme on my list of episodes was weird found bodies / locked room. Because to me, I was okay. I love those ones where like it's a body in a room. How did it get there? Or like, obviously, I did the weird one where the guy's body was found on top of the pile of coal, and it's just like,
yeah, you've done a couple of them. That one, and then the 1408.
Oh, that's the Stephen King movie. Oh, yeah.
What's the one you did?
Yeah,
something like that.
1048. Yes, yeah, way back in episode 4. So, I mean, I'm not shocked you can't remember the exact number.
It was so similar though. 1408 and 1048.
I know that one kind of is like, yeah, it does have elements of that kind of locked room mystery because he's in the hotel room, which could be locked from the outside, I believe, too. Which, especially the ones where you find like it's really weird when they're in like a room that's locked from the inside or something, and then you're like, how did someone get in there and kill them? But like, there's so many just different variations on like bodies found that are, we're not sure how they died. It's undetermined. Like, could be suicide, could be a really weird murder staged to look like suicide. Like, yeah, all those ones are just fascinating to me.
Yeah, I have one I'm excited to share with you.
I don't even think you told me what you were doing, so there's an infinitesimal chance we're doing the same one. No, probably not.
I picked one. I think I had mentioned maybe briefly to you in the past, and you kind of had said you had never heard of it. And then in my head I went, well, this is like one of the first ones I ever heard that wasn't like a huge, really big case, like the Black Dahlia, all that level of like, okay, a lot of people, like, even if you don't know the details, have heard the name. This one is probably one of the ones I had heard first after hearing about all those. And I was like, okay, maybe I should just do this one, because
goes way back with you.
Yeah, this is one of a few of the podcasts I like have covered it.
Really?
A lot of people have covered it, it seems. It's pretty popular. So yeah, I think when you had told me you hadn't heard of it, I was like, oh, it seems like
weird.
I'm always hearing about it.
Now I'm intrigued. I'm like sitting right up. Hang on. Okay. Got mine.
Yeah, there's gonna be, I feel like, a lot of names.
Okay.
There's quite a few people involved, but
Gordo's
just settle,
always involved.
calm yourself. Yeah. This is the Keddie cabin murders.
Okay, no, it doesn't really sound familiar.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty popular. Like I said it happened in the 1980s.
Good decade.
Yeah, we'll get into it. It's interesting. It's not a locked room or like how the bodies end up there, but there is some weird things with it for sure.
Yes, all the weirdness.
Yeah. So the Keddie cabins, specifically cabin 28 is the one we're interested in, as view along with like some of the neighboring ones.
1408, 1040. Now I sound like Jim Carrey in the number 23.
28.
Oh my god. Oh, it scared me. It had a it's fine now. It was like disconnecting, reconnecting. I was like, no.
Oh. No, don't do that to us. So originally the cabins were part of this Keddie Resort Road in Keddie, California. And they were kind of refurbished from what was kind of like a resort town to being used as like low income housing. Yeah, they had kind of.
Oh my god.
Oh, now I lost you.
God.
You got back.
What is happening?
It like fully refreshed the.
Yeah, you blipped out. I was like,
okay, well, it says it's still recording.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I'm still seeing it tracked.
Yeah. So they're like refurbished kind of thing. So now they're used as like housing, because the tourism kind of died down from what it was. And leading up to the events for the last year or so, the Sharp family had been living in the Keddie cabins. There was Glenna Susan, or most of the time she's called Sue Sharp. She was 36, and then she had her kids with her. There was Tina Louise, who was 12, Sheila, who's 14. There's John Stephen, who's 15, Rick, who's 10, and then Greg, who's 5.
Holy shit.
So she has 5 kids with her. Yeah.
It's like Jim Gaffigan.
5 kids by age 36.
I know. It's like, are you done now? No, because like Jim Gaffigan has 5 kids, and he always says, he always says, first of all, everybody goes, 5 kids, that's a lot, as if he doesn't know. But that's like having 4 kids, and then someone like you're drowning, and then someone hands you a baby or something. I don't know. I'm just like,
yeah. You got room for one more. They had all moved to Keddie from Connecticut after Sue had separated from the husband and father of the children, James Sharp, who I think only one source ended up giving a bit of background, said he might have been abusive, and that's why they kind of left.
I guess it would have to be something, because it's
not exactly
you need
sure
help.
on
You've
that.
got 5 kids. You're not going to leave over
Yeah.
some petty squabble or anything. That's for sure.
Yeah, thankfully though, like before moving into the 4-bedroom cabin, which was cabin 28, the family had rented a small trailer where Sue's brother Don had lived. So they're not renting it from him, but he had lived in like kind of this trailer park area. And when she left Connecticut and left James and moved the kids over, he was kind of like, hey, we'll help set you up in this place. And she lived there. They lived there for a little while before they were able to get the cabin, which is nice. So it seemed like she had like family support and everything nearby,
no
which was good. Yeah. The cabins had been hit with hard times and had been what were once rented out were now converted into the low income housing and kind of more permanent stays. So the Sharp family at this point moved into cabin 28, where they made close friends with all of their new neighbors. Yeah, I should have looked up population wise how many people were there, but it is pretty small. It said it was an isolated town with only one road in or out.
That's quaint, and also in this context, sinister. Yeah.
Can be, yeah. One of the people that covered this was the like BuzzFeed Unsolved guys for their true crime. It was one of their first episodes, and I'm pretty sure they actually like went to the area, like they went to the town and everything and tried talking to people about it. And yeah, it was a little weird. They did that in some of their first few episodes and stuff before they kind of got more recognizable.
Based out of California?
Was that? And they weren't really
where we're at.
Yeah, they were in LA, so it wouldn't have been. Yeah, it wouldn't have been too hard for them to get there. So yeah, they've been living in the cabin for some stuff said about 6 months. Most things said about a year. When we get to the late morning of April 11th, 1981, when Sue and then her daughter Sheila and then her youngest son Greg go to pick up Rick from baseball tryouts. Yeah, it's like early afternoon, I think about 11:30. During their trip, they see John and his friend Dana. What's Dana's last name? Dana Wingate. And they're like hitchhiking because it's the 80s in a small town. So they see them and they're kind of hitchhiking in between towns.
Oh, they're on the one road.
They decide to give them back a ride back into town.
Which way are you going? I mean, this way.
So they give them a yeah, right. They give them a ride back, and then about 2 hours later, around 3:30, John and Dana. John is 17. Oh no, John is 15. His friend Dana is 17. They hitchhike back to nearby Quincy to visit a different group of friends. So they're hitchhike a different ride back. And around this time, the boys are seen in the downtown area. Sheila, who's 14, she had made plans to spend the night with the Siebold family, who lived next door at cabin 27. So, like I said, they were really close-knit community. There's a lot of nice families around. So Sheila had left cabin 28, where they were living, to go to the neighboring cabin just before about 8 p.m. And her sister Tina had been already next door with the Siebold family watching TV. So when Sheila showed up, they were kind of like, oh, they hung out for like another hour or so watching TV together at the neighbors. And then Tina went back home next door at about 9:30.
Nice. I mean, like, we'll just go visiting then.
Yeah. Right? Go hang out with the neighbors. Um, yeah, so this is when things take a tragic turn. So we don't really know exactly what happens. This is part of the mystery of what really happened that night. But jumping to the next morning when Sheila returns from the neighbor's house and discovers bodies in cabin 28. So, yeah. So she finds her brother's friend Dana Wingate. He is him, and her mother Sue and John, her brother, are found by Sheila in the living room, and they've been murdered.
Wow.
They're dead. Yeah, it's very
What a
gruesome.
shock. She just comes home, no idea.
Right? She's 14. She came home from a
Wow.
sleepover with the neighbors.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. All three had been bound with like medical tape and electrical cords. One of the other weirdest things that always stuck out with me with this case was the fact that Sue's other two kids, Rick, who's 10, and Greg, who's 5, along with their friend Justin Smart, who was one of the other neighbors' kids, like I think on the other side somewhere, or like neighboring cabins kid. They were sleeping in the room like right next door to the living room, and they had slept through the whole attack, and they were unharmed, and they didn't even know it had happened, which is crazy when I tell you how much happened in that living room that they apparently did not hear.
And those were
crazy.
Children in the room. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
That is
bizarre.
So
yeah, I don't have how old Justin is, but he's I think he was Rick's friend, so must be around the age of 10 or so, and then Greg was only 5. So yeah, they had slept through the attacks that had occurred in the house, like right next door, and were unaware of what had even happened in the living room. So Sheila ran back next door after finding the bodies, and she got the eldest son, Jamie Seabolt, to help her kind of get Rick, Greg, and Justin through the bedroom window to avoid them having to go through the living room and walk past any of the bodies.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Jamie later admitted to briefly entering the home through the back door to see if anyone was alive, and he admitted he may have contaminated the scene during that process.
They don't really know.
Yeah.
They're just little.
Yeah, it kind of said, like, at this time, obviously, they didn't have, like, DNA testing even, so, like, contaminating wasn't a huge thing. Gordo, you're hitting...
Probably wouldn't have been top of my mind if that was my family or neighbor or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's a small community. Like, they are not expecting anything like this. So the police are notified really quickly, and investigators are called about an hour after Sheila discovers the bodies.
Okay.
Yeah, so the murders are especially vicious. So they, in like investigating, find 2 bloody knives and 1 hammer at the scene. There's like blood spatter everywhere in the living room. It showed that the attacks had happened in that area, and the amount of blood and where it was had also suggested that their bodies had been moved and rearranged from like where they probably would have died to like where they were found and like what positions they were found in. Yeah, so kind of like staged or like moved around.
Dragged through the blood or something.
I'm just getting fanned or dusted by a tail here. I also have I have a foot on my arm as well. My footrest now.
Is back.
I know, I have getting kicked. yeah, so there was like some staging, something like that. There was blood found on the walls, ceiling, doors, and even the porch railing. So like that's presumably how they exited. It's hard to get good pictures of the front of the cabin. But from the back from the front it almost looks like, the houses that are built where it's a walk up from the front, and then at the back, because like the I don't know, the ground is like sharply goes down or something, that from the back of the house it could be like 2 stories, but from the front it's really like kind of one. It's like a walk up. You can walk up from one side, but from the back you have to go up a
Yeah.
flight of stairs to like get to the ground. Yeah, it kind of looks like that, where the front it's like really enclosed in with trees and everything, and then from the back it's got like a staircase and you can see it more
Okay.
clearly. So it seems to be that's the way that they probably went through. Sue, the mother, she was found lying on her side near the sofa. She was partially covered up by a blanket, but she was nude from the waist down, but showed no signs of sexual assault, which is a
Odd.
little weird. Yeah. She she had been gagged with a blue bandana and her own underwear that were like secured and stuff, like secured with tape. Um, yeah. She had been stabbed in the chest and her throat was stabbed horizontally. There's a lot of stabbing in this. The wound had passed through her larynx and had nicked her spine.
So deep.
Yeah. And one side, right? Yeah. One side of her head had the imprint, or had an imprint that matched the butt of a Daisy 880 Powerline BB or pellet rifle. Which, yeah, none of them seemed to be shot by it, but they were using this rifle as probably like
Right. Blunt
intimidation and
force,
a weapon, even though they weren't like shot with it. Yeah. John, her son, he was found closest to the front door. He was found face up with his throat slashed. And then him and Dana, his friend, were who was found beside him. Dana was found on his stomach, and he had suffered blunt force trauma, or sorry, both of them had suffered blunt force trauma to their heads caused by one or more of the hammers that were
And the
involved.
friends were just happened to be there, right?
Yeah, he was. So Sheila had gone next door for a sleepover, and they had invited Dana, John's friend, to come over for a sleepover at their house.
Doesn't seem to be like any clear motive or anything.
Yeah, it's weird. John and Dana's ankles were tied together, and then they were also tied like their ankles to each other. So yeah, John was face up, and then Dana was face down, but their ankles are tied to each other, like so they can't walk. So they're like hog tied to each other. So weird.
Yeah, and like methodical and takes time. Like, how is it that these other kids didn't hear any screams or
right? Like you're getting hit in the head with hammers. There's blood on the ceiling, on the walls, everywhere. You're getting tied up. Like how do 3 kids not hear that? Like I don't. Yeah. That's what's always kind of stuck with me. It's like how did they not hear anything? Autopsies determined that Sue and John had died from knife wounds and blunt force trauma, and that Dana, the friend, had died from manual asphyxiation. So he was like suffocated or choked.
Crazy. Is it like, wow, very violent.
Yeah, right. There was a steak knife that was one of the knives involved. It was found on the floor. It was bent at like a 30-degree angle.
Wow.
And there was also a butcher's knife and a claw hammer, both covered in blood, that were found placed side by side on a small wooden table near the entry into the kitchen. So, like, just neatly on the table.
That's bizarre.
Lined up. Yeah. Right? Sheila and the Seabolt family next door, while they were sleeping, they had heard no commotion during the night. But weirdly, a couple that was living nearby, some stuff said that they were next door neighbors, but they lived in cabin 16, so I wouldn't assume they were neighbors unless it's like across the street or something, because they're in cabin 28, so that's, yeah. They were awakened at about 1:15 a.m. by what they thought was muffled screaming. But again, if your neighbors heard that muffled screaming, why didn't it wake up the kids that are like in the same house as the muffled screaming?
Yeah, that is hard to imagine.
Yeah. It took hours before investigators realized something that made it the case even more tragic, that someone was actually missing from the scene that was also in the house that night. 12-year-old Tina. She couldn't be located.
Oh, no.
The sheets in her room were stained with blood. So once Tina was declared missing, the FBI were called in immediately.
This just gets worse.
Yeah. Right? It's pretty crazy. With no apparent motive for these violent attacks and kidnapping Tina, the police had a really hard time investigating. There was no sign of forced entry anywhere in the house, and investigators were able to recover a few pieces of evidence. There was an unidentified fingerprint that they recovered from a handrail on the back of the stairs, like on the outside of the cabin. The phone inside the cabin had been left off the hook, and all the lights had been shut off, and the drapes had all been pulled closed. So I don't know if they're kind of saying that wasn't typical for the family, like at night, having everything shut off and like closed up like that.
Definitely not to have the phone off the hook, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, not that part, yes. I'm sure.
Obviously to hide the aftermath.
Right. Martin Smart, who was Justin's stepfather, he's one of the boys that was sleeping next door in the room. He became a suspect when he claimed that a claw hammer had gone missing from his home. And he just offered this up to police. And this was actually before it was public knowledge that hammers had ever even been used in the attacks. So he's like, hey, by the way, just wanted to let you guys know my hammer might have been stolen from my house. Just want to let you know. Okay, cool. Bye.
Yeah, red flag.
A little weird. Justin, the stepson, he had offered conflicting stories of the evening, and even had stated at one point that he had dreamed up details of the murders. In his later account of events that were done under hypnosis, he claimed to have seen Sue with two men. And he actually provided descriptions of what these two men looked like under this hypnosis.
Okay, so this was later.
And they kind of did make like... Yeah, it's later, and after he originally said he slept through it, then he's kind of like, oh, I actually saw her with two men. And yeah, they did these two composite sketches of these unknown men. It's really bad. They kind of did such a shitty investigation on this one from the get-go. The composite sketches were produced by a man named Harlan Embry, who is a man that Wikipedia said, a man with no artistic ability and no training in forensic sketching.
Wow.
Which I think it's hilarious to explain, describe somebody as a man with no artistic ability.
Yeah, your artistic renderings. Yeah.
composite. Yeah. Wikipedia said it was never explained why, with access to the Justice Department and the FBI's top forensic artists, why law enforcement chose to use an amateur who sometimes volunteered to help local police.
Nothing really to go on either.
Yeah, because like I said, once...
It's like...
Yeah, like once Tina was involved, like the police were... Or not the police, sorry, the FBI were called in. Like, you could have used the fucking FBI. Yeah, I'll just kind of run through it. It said, in press releases accompanying the sketches, the suspects were described as in their late 20s to early 30s. One stood about 5'11" to 6'2", with dark blonde hair, and the other was between 5'6" and 5'10", with black greased hair. Both wore gold-framed sunglasses. Justin also said one of them had a hammer, and he reported that John and Dana had entered the home and argued with the men, which resulted in a violent fight, and that Tina was then allegedly taken out of the cabin's back door by one of the men. So that's what he, under hypnosis, said that he witnessed.
Well, that's not much of a lead, but okay.
Yeah, I mean... Again, I don't exactly know Justin's age, but yeah, if he's the same age as like Rick, he's like 10 or 11. So yeah, not great for that to be one of your only witnesses, I guess.
Yeah, and just not like you actually said something at the time. It was under regressive hypnosis or whatever, repressed memories. It's like, what?
Yeah. In addition to interviewing Martin, detectives spoke to many other locals and neighbors in the area. Several people, including members of the Seabolt family who lived next door, remembered seeing a green van parked at the Sharps' house at around 9 p.m. So that would have been just before Tina returned home at like 9:30. While others later spotted a brown Datsun that appeared to have a flat tire. Unfortunately, these leads didn't help advance the case or come up with any new information. Because it's the 80s, there was like these rumors going around about the crimes being ritualistic or motivated by drug trafficking. So it was, I think, part of like satanic panic a little bit.
Pick your panic of the day.
Yeah. These right? Panic at all the panics. These, I don't know, leads were dismissed by the sheriff as no drugs or drug paraphernalia were ever found in the home. Weirdly though, multiple sources talked about the fact that it was strange that two of the investigators and like the lead investigators for the deaths were actually from the organized crime unit and not actually homicide, which was really weird.
Okay.
Because they're like, oh, you're dismissing the fact that you think it's drug related, but your investigators are from organized crime and not even homicide? Like, what are you doing then?
Yeah.
So weird.
What do they know?
Right? Later that year, there was a knife that was recovered in a trash can outside of the Keddie General Store. Authorities also believed that this item was linked to the crimes. That was later the year. Yeah, so kind of fast forwarding a few years.
Damn it.
Yeah.
That's frustrating. Sorry.
So, yeah, Tina's disappearance was initially investigated by the FBI as a possible abduction. Although it was reported, what would this have been? Within a week or so, I think, that the FBI had kind of backed off as the search as the California State Department of Justice was doing a quote-unquote adequate job and had made the FBI's presence unnecessary. So the FBI kind of stopped being involved. And there were, they said that they were doing like adequate enough searches to try and find Tina. There was these grid pattern searches of the area covering a 5-mile radius around the house that was conducted by police canines. But the efforts turned up no results. They couldn't find her. Tina remained a missing person until April of 1984. So, like 4 years, almost to the day. It was kind of creepy. When somebody who was like walking in the woods or something collecting bottles, must be like near one of the highways or a trail or something. They were just kind of collecting bottles, and they found the cranium portion of a skull and then several other bones about, this was weird, it said 30 to 100 miles away from Keddie. They were found at Camp 18, California, near Butte County. Which some sources said was 30 miles away, and other sources said was 100 miles away from the cabin where she was abducted. So I have no idea.
Far.
Yeah, those are drastically different numbers. But yeah, so they found part of her remains. Near the remains, they also found a child's blanket, a blue nylon jacket, a pair of jeans with a missing back pocket, and an empty surgical tape dispenser, which, if you remember, like, they were kind of wrapped up. They were bound with medical tape. Yeah, that's all they really found. They said they couldn't determine a cause of death. Decay was too advanced, whatever. And the remains were confirmed by a forensic pathologist to be Tina's in June of 1984. So, yeah. For like updates, because that's kind of where it's at. Like, we just don't know. There's been multiple different leads that they've tried to investigate, different suspects and stuff they've tried to work through. But no charges have ever been filed against anybody. In the last 20 years or so, several new leads have helped advance the case a little bit. One of the weirdest things with this as well is that before Tina's remains were identified, but her remains had been found. So I think they had announced that they had found remains at this point, but it's like 100 miles away. No, they aren't thinking about Tina. It's been 4 years or 3 years. So the sheriff's office that had the remains actually had received an anonymous call that stated that the remains were Tina's. Like, they had called and been like, yeah, so I heard you got remains. Have you tried testing them to see if they're Tina Sharp's? You know, she went missing nearby. They're probably hers.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, like, that might be a little weird. The caller was a male. It wasn't documented properly. So a tape that contained the original recording of the call ended up kind of just getting filed away. Nobody really did anything with it. Ended up at the bottom of an evidence box until 2013, when a new deputy was assigned the case and like found it and listened to it for basically the first time, other than when the original person picked up the phone. And they thought it was really weird. They said, quote, I was wondering why they thought of the murder up in Keddie, in Plumas County a couple years ago, where a 12-year-old girl was never found. And like, why would that be immediately what comes to your mind?
Because you did
in a totally different area. Yeah, maybe. There was a gentleman named John Bowe. I want to say Bodeby. He was another suspect. He actually lived in the same cabin as Martin Smart.
Sorry.
And he alleged... Yeah, right? It's smart with two T's.
Have you ever heard
Smart.
Pat say, he'll
Double
say
the
to
smart.
people, Martin, eh? It's like, what? No. Yeah, Martin up. Yeah.
Martin up?
Exactly. It's a dad joke. He's been telling before he was a dad. No.
Right? Allegedly, this Beau guy, he had ties to organized crime in Chicago. Which is, yeah, and he was living with Martin Smart. Some stuff said for like up to a year, other things said it had only been a week or so. But this Beau guy, he had died in 1988. So yeah. According to an article published by the Sacramento Bee in 2016, it stated that Martin's wife had actually left him the day of the murder discovery. So, like, after it was announced that the bodies had been found, Martin's wife leaves him. And, which is a little weird timing. Martin had apparently left Keddie, where he, at some point, I don't think the exact same day. No, this is shortly after the murders. He had drove to Reno, Nevada, and while he was there, he sent a letter to his wife, or separate wife, Marilyn, talking about personal struggles in their marriage. And the letter is interesting to the case because it included a passage that said, quote, "I've paid the price for your love, and now I've bought it with 4 people's lives. You tell me we are through. Great. What else do you want?"
What the hell? This is the Martin guy?
Yeah, so this is Justin's stepfather. And Justin was one of the boys that was sleeping in the room next door. And those boys were undisturbed.
That is weird.
Presumably. So most of the things I read talked about that, because now we know, like with Tina's body being discovered, that four people were killed that night. But I do want to mention that other people, and I think only one source I read even talked about it, that Martin and Martin, I think he had 4 children from a previous relationship, and he kind of, like, those kids kind of got neglected a little bit, so he could focus more so on him and Marilyn's children that they had together. So that is one alternate interpretation of that statement from the letter, is that I've said, like, yeah, I've paid the price for your love, and now I bought it with 4 people's lives. It's kind of like he's neglected his past children, and now our relationship's broken too.
Exactly.
So, like, what
with
was
some
the point?
Context, it's less of a "I killed 4 people" kind of statement.
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I do want to mention it because it seems people just talk about that and then they don't follow up with, like, oh, okay, well, he actually had that many kids, so maybe that is one way to interpret it. But still a little suspicious. Your wife leaves you the day of the murders, and the guy that's living with you has ties to organized crime. In a 2016 interview, there was an investigator in the case who stated that the letter was overlooked in the initial investigation and was never admitted as evidence. He too criticized the low-quality investigation previously. A counselor whom Smart regularly visited also alleged that he had admitted to the murders of Sue and Tina, but claimed, quote, "I didn't have anything to do with the boys."
What?
End quote. He allegedly told this, like, counselor that Tina was killed to prevent her from identifying him, as she had witnessed the whole thing.
What?
So that's what I don't know, his counselor, if it was like a psychologist or what, is claiming that he said during sessions, which I don't know if you're allowed to do that.
No, but unless they're not talking about the therapy. Like, it's like, don't they sometimes call lawyers counselor?
Yeah.
That is.
I don't really know.
Cool.
Yeah, something. Yeah. It's a little weird. Marilyn, so this was his ex-wife, admitted in a 2008 documentary that she thought that Martin and his friend Bo were responsible. There was a Sheriff Doug Thomas. He contradicted this and stated that Martin had successfully passed a polygraph test.
What about any
He
alibis
couldn't have
for
done
anybody?
Yeah, exactly. It was interestingly later confirmed that Martin was close with this sheriff in particular. So cool. I mean, it's a small community, so everything in this happened in 2016. Goddamn. In 2016, I feel like that's the only year I've said
I thought the
since
only thing that happened that year was
1981.
Trump or whatever.
Fuck. God, it better not happen again.
Talked about that. That's why nobody was paying attention to this case.
I bought a t-shirt that said, it's okay, it's only 4 years, and then I never wore it because I was afraid I'd get attacked. And now I'm like, damn, I took that shirt to Goodwill like 8 years ago. I should have kept it.
I mean, you could wear it. Does it say like a name on it? You could just pretend it's about Trudeau.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it had like American colors on it. Yeah, I still have a birdie for president after Bernie Sanders when that bird was like landed on his podium during one of his things. Oh, I ordered it offline. It's really cute. Anyway. So yeah, 2016, there was a hammer matching the one that Martin Smart had claimed to have lost or was stolen. And it was found in a local pond, and eventually put into evidence. Oh,
found in a pond?
Yeah, so apparently this pond had kind of drained up or dried up, and then they found it. They didn't like just randomly go dredging a pond, but
like, wow, they're taking this seriously. Yeah.
I thought that at first.
Oh.
Yeah, 36 years later. Yeah, so they find this hammer. Plumas County Sheriff Hagwood, who was 16 years old at the time of the murders and knew the Sharp family, he stated, quote, "The location it was found, it would have had to have been intentionally put there. It would not have been accidentally misplaced."
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there was Gameberg. I think he's one of the main investigators. Also stated at that time that there was 6 potential suspects who were being examined. I think that was back in 2016.
Is the father not one of them? Of the
Oh, like the Sharp,
the deadbeat daddy, or whatever.
I think I remember hearing something about him possibly being a suspect, but I didn't run across it when I was trying to do research. Nothing ever really talked about him. Yeah. For like theories, like, I don't know, there is some information, but this is all like just kind of back and forth. It basically revolves around, I don't know, 3 main theories. The first one is that there was some sort of love triangle going on between Martin, Marilyn, his wife, and Sue. Believing that Martin and Sue were having an affair and that Sue was supposedly counseling Marilyn at the same time to leave Martin. And Marilyn was saying that Martin was abusive to her, and that when Martin discovered that like Sue was trying to get Marilyn to leave him, he enlisted Bo, his friend, a known mob enforcer, who lived with them. This says lived with them a mere 10 days before the Keddie murders, to take Sue out of the picture so that his wife wouldn't leave him.
And then he had to kill everybody else too?
It said this would account for... Yeah, right? It said this would account for Marilyn leaving Martin the day of the murder discovery. It would also explain why the Smart boy and the other Sharp boys in the adjoining room were spared. Additionally, it gives context to Martin's handwritten note that Marilyn gave to the sheriff.
I guess.
Yeah. It said that there's some investigators who picked up the case when it was reopened in 2013 that say that it's involved in an even larger plot to Gameberg. It is clear that the sheriff's department covered it up, and he alleges that Bo and Martin fit into a larger drug smuggling scheme that involved the federal government.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's all like...
It said that...
Yeah, grasping at
So
conspiracy
wild.
straws. I don't know. Yeah.
A bit, yeah. That's why I didn't want to get into this a whole lot. I'm kind of paraphrasing even my notes. Because I was
Theories
like,
can
I
be
don't want to read
hard,
this
yeah.
anymore.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, from what the sheriff's department say, they say that Martin was a known drug dealer and that Bo was connected to Chicago crime syndicates with financial interests in drug distribution. This might explain why the Sacramento DOJ sent 2 allegedly corrupt organized crime special agents instead of agents from the homicide department. So
Still, you might want both people to work on it.
yeah.
Or...
Maybe. There's kind of a few other theories. One that basically was that Bo was kind of trying to date Sue and had kept hitting on her, and she had kept rejecting him, and then the story, he finally snaps and decides to attack her with the help of Martin.
I don't love it, but yeah,
like happens so, yeah, it's common. And then there's also that Sue was telling Marilyn to leave Martin, but they weren't having an affair. Anything like that. But again, we have no idea.
Seems like
we just
only
don't
really
know.
motive for killing Sue, not all this.
Right? Like, why have the kids? Why do it when your own kid is in the house?
Doesn't wrap everything up with a neat little bow.
Like, yeah, why did you have to tie everybody up? Why did you use hammers? Why did you shove her underwear in her mouth and a bandana and tape it over her face and then move their bodies and cover her with a blanket? And why did you hog tie the boys' ankles together? Like,
yeah, there's gonna be multiple
so weird.
attackers.
It's why did you kidnap Tina? Just because she saw it. The other two clearly saw it. You could have just killed her in the living room too.
She would have been taken away to be like sexually assaulted or something.
So
I don't
weird.
know.
That's what people have said, and then because like her remains were so decayed, they don't know if that might have been. That is one of the theories too, is that was the main goal, and then everything else was kind of the consequences of them trying to abduct her. But yeah. Sheila obviously like hasn't really talked too much about it. Yeah, she was fucking 14 when she found the bodies, and it's her family and her mom.
It's just her and her little brother Greg.
She told...
Is that the only two?
So she has what? It would be her... she was 14, then she had a 10-year-old brother, Rick.
Oh yeah, he was alive too in the room. Right?
Yeah. And then her 5-year-old brother, Greg. They survived because her older brother, John, who was 15, he was killed.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Tina her sister was 12. Yeah. They're all like so close together in age. It just, yeah. Sheila told the CBS Sacramento in 2016, quote, "I was told the suspects were told to get out of town. So to me, that means it was a cover-up." Which I did see a couple other people other than Sheila mentioned that main suspects were told to leave town so that they couldn't be interviewed. So there could be some sort of cover-up for sure.
we don't know if that's confirmed about any of the suspects you've talked about, I would imagine.
Yeah, right? Like, I just hate that the FBI couldn't have stayed, like, maybe more involved with it. I feel like it definitely needed somebody that wasn't local to be investigating it
and
more.
once, like, it's decided who's got jurisdiction, which is usually quite a rigid rule process, I thought. Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah. Apparently there used to be a lot of people that would try to go to Cabin 28 and everything. Don't know if it was ever really occupied after the attacks, but it was demolished in 2004.
Not 2016.
Yeah. I only have it. No, I have. No. I finally have another year. Oh, here's another one. April 2018. This I find really interesting. Because this is another whole other mystery. So Plumas County Special Investigator Mike Gainberg, he stated that DNA evidence that was recovered from a piece of the tape that was used at the crime scene had been matched to that of a known living suspect, which is interesting because if you recall, Bo and Martin, who I didn't mention, but both of them are dead and died well before 2018. So they're saying they have DNA evidence that has been matched to somebody that's still alive.
6 main ones, then maybe.
And somebody, but that was back to 2018, and this person's identity has never been released, and they've never been charged still. It's been another 6 years. I was
trying to do the math.
Since they matched the DNA. Like, really, you match the DNA from one of the people that has their DNA, like, on the residue of one of the tape bindings from the body, I presume. And you haven't released it or arrested them, and it's been 6 years since you've known that, like, oh, sorry, I accidentally touched the tape that was binding their bodies.
That doesn't seem like necessarily helpful.
Yeah, it's so weird. Because it's like, really, if you know that you have their DNA, like, why aren't you arresting them? That person's still alive. Like, there has to be something going on about why they can't
they have them
go after this person.
And we don't know.
Because it's DNA.
Yeah.
It's DNA. Like, you can say, oh, your DNA places you at the scene. That's not circumstantial. Unless it's something really weird, but, like, it says it's on the tape. From a piece of the tape from the crime scene.
From one of the...
Yeah, and there was a couple other investigators that said, like, they believed that there was more than 2 of them that were in the house that night, because how else would you subdue, like, Sue and 3 children at the same time? Right? With 3 more of them in the house that could have woken up any second.
I just keep getting stuck on the kids in the other room were little, too. It's not like... Which makes me less inclined to think that they could be involved or something. So it's really weird.
Yeah. It's so weird. This one, like I told you, it's one of the first cases I think I ever heard after some of the big ones. And it stuck with me. Like, anytime a podcast or anything true crime has one that's like Keddie Cabin Murders, I'm like, click! Immediately have to listen to it. It's
just to see if there's different details.
Crazy.
Yeah, because people will cover things differently for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more information. I didn't re-listen to anything back, but it's still pretty wild. It's been a long time that I've heard about this case, and I'm hoping there's updates or something soon. They can finally go after whoever's involved. It's like about damn time.
It's a case that every cop just can't get off their mind, or it's their red ball. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to. It's crazy. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, Alanna said she hasn't heard of this one. I was like, shit, I gotta cover it at some point.
Hell, I listened to a lot, and I had to ask Pat today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you do.
A movie called Moonfall. He goes, Patrick Wilson. I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah. I was like, okay, because at first I put on an episode.
Did I like it? That's what my dad always asks. Have I seen this movie? And I'll be like, I think so. And he's like, did I like it?
I do like that. Yeah.
Because he's like, I'll watch it again. He's like, if I liked it and I don't remember it, I'll watch it again.
No.
Oh, God.
Which, that's not always an indicator with me, because sometimes I'm drinking wine or something, and then it's like, I'll fall asleep through anything. But no, it's like, yeah, we had watched it, but I was like listening to them talk about it on the podcast, and it's like, what is this even about? And then I'm like, they start talking about one part, and then I'm like,
I recall none of this.
Oh yeah, they went to the moon, right? Like, I don't know. They have to blow up the moon or something. Patrick Wilson's in it. John Bradley, from Game of Thrones, Samuel Tarly, and
okay, I don't think I've seen this movie.
Yeah,
Halle Berry's in it,
but forgettable.
That's Alanna's one word review. Forgettable.
That's what you want. Yeah. But I have watched some unforgettable horror movies, so we are going to be excited when we get to talk about those on Patreon for spooky season next month.
Yeah, I've been watching a few. I added a bunch, I think, to my Prime or Disney list, and then I was like, ooh, leading up to Halloween, get to watch all the creepy movies. All the streaming sites double the amount of horror movies and everything they have these ones to be available.
Like, okay, today we could watch Cuckoo, or what was the other one called? Afraid, or I don't know. And then we watched just... Good.
I've heard Cuckoo's pretty good. I've heard. I haven't seen it.
I can't remember the trailers, but we did watch one called The Blackening, which was a comedy horror about a group of black friends at, cabin in the woods, and there's like Jumanji style, there's a game called The Blackening, and they have to answer questions on well, first it's black history questions, and then they have to decide who's the blackest, or because they're gonna kill them. It's it becomes real truth or dare kind of, those kind of game horror ones or whatever.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah.
I think the name sounds vaguely familiar. I might have run across a trailer or something at some point.
Yeah.
I'll have to keep my eyes out. Okay. I like that when it's done well. Yeah. You can do a good tongue-in-cheek kind of satire.
But Pat fell asleep, so he'd probably be like, did I like it? I don't know, man. You took a dad nap. So
yeah.
Anyway, we will be right back after this dad nap. After these messages. All right. Weird.
Hello. Mic check. 1, 2.
Oh, yeah.
Are we here?
Hello.
Can you hear us? Is anybody out there?
That's what I was gonna say. Oh god.
Knock knock. Who's there? Nobody.
It's your computer fucking with you again. Oh my god, did you see that commercial?
No.
I know you don't.
I don't have cable. My parents ask me that all the time. Have you seen this commercial? No.
YouTube, anything, things that have commercials, whatever. It was maybe it was hockey season, because then I end up watching commercials because Pat has it on cable to watch that. There's the guy's walking around the house, and he's the bad internet connection, so he just walks around shoving the computers off the desks in front of people that are working on them and
No.
tablet out of your hand. And then it's like, bad connection getting you down.
That sounds fun.
Black, and he's just like knocking people's shit out of their hands and stuff and pulling their plugs out of the wall. I don't know. That's what I feel like today, I guess. I was just trying to get the stupid session going the first time.
I don't know why, but that reminds me of what is it, like Allstate or something? Some insurance company that used to have that guy that was like, I'm a teenage girl. I'm scrolling through Instagram while I drive. Like,
yes, because that guy's from Oz, Dean Winters.
I'm the raccoon guy nesting in your attic. You're like, what is this freaking commercial?
He's the personification of all your accidents. Yeah, those ones are funny.
I love those. So funny. Can't remember what company, but they did good. They did good on those ads.
Yeah. I don't know. One of the companies. So good we remember if it's Allstate or not. They're not paying us, by the way.
Yeah, anyway. We are not sponsored by Big Insurance. Alanna's paid by Big Insurance, but I'm not anymore.
Big Insurance. Who knows? Who knows?
I used to be. I don't work there anymore.
That's one department I haven't directly worked in yet, but they probably make all the money, except for the years where they have to pay out all the money. Oh, hailstorms and fires and such.
I mean, that part doesn't affect your paycheck unless. So you're still making your pay, and then you're still normally making commission.
Commission.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited.
Anyway, no, I don't even.
No tangent.
That reminds me too. No, but they're changing the Patreon. Anyway, they're always changing things with that one. But you saying the commissions made me think. I think they said you could sell your collections, and I did not have time to look at it or to look into it.
What's that?
Oh, what?
What's that? Sell your collection.
Maybe you just, if people just want to listen to your true crime episodes, they could just somehow pay for only those, because you have them divided into collections on Patreon, like different categories.
Interesting.
Who knows, man? We just figured out this soundboard thing,
right?
With our new abilities. But yes, there is one podcast did say you shouldn't join Patreon from the app on your iPhones because iPhone upcharges everybody like 30% or something. So apparently do join our Patreon, just not on the app on iPhone. Go to the desktop version.
Really?
Something
How
stupid.
Is that possible?
I don't know. They're evil.
Weird.
Eat the rich. I don't know. I don't have a good segue.
Fuck Apple. I'm so tired.
Well, that's great because we're going to an insane asylum. You'll fit right in.
I will be. I'm sure. At some point in my life. Just
take everybody back in the day. They're just like, are you depressed? Are you
this
too
woman
horny?
Is sad. Let's take her to an island where she can overlook the ocean.
It's the orphans in the ocean.
The ocean.
That sounds like it should be a good mashup word. Like I heard a dwarfenage on like a D&D thing, and I was like, that's amazing.
No.
I just wish I could use that in my everyday vocabulary, but I can't just casually throw it in there, except for now.
Yeah, if only that, like, damn, if that was like a clinical diagnosis anymore, I guess it's like bed rest or like a mental health break, but come on.
That you're tired.
Yeah, I'm so tired.
Yeah. We gotta like rise up, just like when they decided that like children shouldn't work all night, and then we came up with like Labor Day and stuff like that, and then we were like, 5-day work week, and now we're like, oh my god, 5-day work week. It's too much,
right? Yeah, if anybody ever in your life tries to tell you that a union is a bad idea, don't listen to them.
Right?
Unions are good and they save lives.
We need one for podcasters. Also, wait for it. I need something else that's positive, but I just thought you hit that out of the park.
I always wait for the like the crowd. Yes. Going, yeah, but
why is there no crowd?
Yeah, or like clapping, something. The sound of a crisp baseball getting just hit out of the park.
Yes,
that would be a nice way.
I'll also put on that single bullet gunshot when I told you.
Yeah, I want to hear that. That sounds fun.
Or just crickets, right?
Yeah.
When you're like, you feel like your joke doesn't land, you just like turn it on, or it's just like wah wah.
Yeah. Get the one that's Bo. I think his name's Bo from Superstore.
So many bows. Oh no. I don't know.
All right.
Hit
me with this insane asylum.
Without further ado, we're going to the Athena. Yes. I had a brain fart where I was like, it was Athena, right? It wasn't Athens, and I misspelled it. It's fine. It's not in Athens, so. And Athena's not there, but it is the Athena Asylum for the Mentally Ill, and it is in Ohio. Okay. And my story is a little short. It didn't have a lot of meat to it, so
that's all right. Mine was a little longer than I planned on it, so
yeah. I'm just gonna remind us, like, talk a little bit about the like how the building was and how they treated people at the time, which we've all heard a little bit about.
Probably not great.
Yeah.
It involved electroshock therapy and dunking people in ice baths and lice powder getting chucked at you.
Surprisingly not at first. But it was built under the, have you heard of this one, the Kirkbride style or fashion for institutions, I guess. Yeah. I feel like I've heard it come up, but I've definitely heard a few different, haunted asylum stories or whatever.
Yeah.
So this one is by Dr. Thomas Kirkbride. And to explain it, this quote said that Dr. Thomas Kirkbride's plan outlined a new approach to the challenges of mental illness. Kirkbride advocated for the moral treatment, capital M, capital T.
They're people too.
Yeah.
They were always people.
Nice treatment, yeah. No. An approach that emphasized humane conditions with the goal of rehabilitating patients to the highest extent possible. Yeah, revolutionary, right?
Let's try and make them better.
Yeah.
Brand new idea.
We haven't tried this.
Let's try and not make them worse.
This included creating the physical building to certain specifications, including size, access to light and fresh air, a natural setting for recreation, stimulation, and farming. End quote.
Okay, that sounds nice.
It does. When they say it like that.
Like what is it? Like keeps you going and something to do and
right, gives you a purpose of some sort.
Yeah, and like natural kind of thing. You need sunlight. People are plants.
People be people and yeah. We need our nature and fresh air for sure. Yeah, so it went back to like they laid the first cornerstone of it in 1868. Let's get into it now. But sorry, it's been open since 1874, And then even by 1880, they were switching it up, where they began something, a decade-long plan that they called Healing Landscape, because they have to have names for everything. I don't know. And it encompassed like a water purification system, ponds, farming fields, vegetable gardens, livestock, greenhouses, and even an orchard. So like a bunch of cool stuff.
That sounds nice.
It does, but I'm sure they're still going to get too many people in it soon. But they started out like, yeah, they did pretty well. So that was late 1880s, and then by 1903 their moral treatment approach changed to something called custodial care, and this model was more research based with more modern medicine and specialists. And they added cottages on the grounds.
Cottages?
I know, it makes it sound kind of like a country manor. I could have. Well, there's pictures of it. It does look nice. It's still around. It's you'll see they use a building for something else. They're by the 50s they had up to 1,800 patients housed there, so that was about 3 times the intended amount. So I'm sure that was not fun. Yeah, very crowded.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, and it's been open for a while, so I'm sure it's getting old. And that's when they began trying all the new trends like hydrotherapy, electroshock, lobotomy, and art therapy.
Oh.
I know!
One of these things is not like the other.
That's what I thought. They put them just like that too. I was like, okay.
So they put them through the other stuff so they have something to do in art therapy.
Right.
We have to give them traumas that they can then make art about.
Yeah, I'm hoping they're maybe going to start with the art therapy. I don't know.
Goddamn.
But by the 60s to the 80s, the patient population dropped off to 200 by 1985.
Wow.
Falling out of fashion.
Did they cure 1,200 people? Or what, 1,600 actually?
I think we came up with drugs, it said, when I was reading the backstory. And by 1988, the state gave the property over to Ohio University. So that's cool. And the community had a contest to rename it the Ridges. So it actually looked like quite a nice little ground still in use.
Nice.
Okay. So one such patient that ended up in the hospital, or whatever you want to call it, was Margaret Schilling. Have you heard of her?
I've heard the last name Schilling before, but I think that's because it's money in Europe somewhere.
Oh, there's a Schillinger on HBO's Oz. Drink. I mentioned it again. No. And he was the leader of the Aryan population, so that was fun.
Oh.
But anyway, we don't actually know much about this poor lady, so we won't go making any speculations. Yeah, and this was, she ended up in there, and like I say, obviously people could be in there from depression to tuberculosis, or for being too young or too old, like anything.
She likes books. No.
Yeah, and you'd hope that they would kind of cease doing that by like the 1900s, but
no.
Yeah.
She's a bored housewife.
Yeah. It starts in 1978 when Margaret was a married mother of 3. She'd actually been married before, and this was her second marriage, so she's like doing the things. Full grown adulting, you know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, another passage of life was her mother's passing, and that really threw her for a loop.
Okay.
Yeah, she had a really hard time dealing with that, I guess, and that just was the, I don't know, tipping point or something, because like she'd been quite well before that. And then her mother Anna died. And then 3 years like going on, she's still talking to her mom like she's there and seeing her mom. And
okay.
so they're very
Not
concerned.
good.
Yeah.
Re-enter Gordo. No. Gordo stage left.
Ready. Pull up a chair.
Yeah. Alanna's telling a story that you can't hear. But you can watch her tell it.
Donate on Patreon so we can get him a cat stand. All right. So
he needs his own ring light. I don't even have a ring light.
Right. So her husband grows concerned over her, I guess, increasingly erratic behavior, but they didn't specify anything other than, like, you know, talking to her dead mom and whatever.
Oh, okay.
So he takes her to the asylum. She wasn't violent or dangerous, but as they took her in, they said, well, we don't really think that she's treatable, that we know what to do with her, I guess. Like,
oh.
I guess they just didn't really know how to deal with that.
You aren't going to diagnose her with schizophrenia like they used to just do with almost everybody. Yes, fucking
Yeah, when did we start getting all the words for all these things? It's like,
I don't know.
78 seems like it could have, you know, it's yesterday, right? Like,
right?
So somehow they are like, well, let's put her in the most secure ward. That's Block D.
Oh, okay.
It was 16 rooms that lined a corridor that was subject to round-the-clock supervision. Oh, there was an old-timey photo of the hall, but it actually just looked it was kind of nice inside. They have just people sitting around. They're like, in the old picture I saw, like, their long Victorian dresses and then like little card tables, and I don't know. But it was also like, yeah, round-the-clock supervision, and there's like bars stuff, and it's locked all the time. It's locked rooms within a locked ward. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got all the locks. So this is why it's a surprise one morning when a nurse goes to take Margaret her tray, her breakfast tray, and Margaret's not there. This was December 1st, 1978. She'd only been there, I think, a few months. And there were no signs of forced entry. There was no signs of Margaret, just slept in bed and like a bit of a mess, I guess, on the floor.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there were some broken items, but just nothing. She had vanished. So they start interviewing all the nurses, and they're like, I don't know, like, she's always, you know, the same usually, except for the last few weeks. They said she'd been a bit more quiet and like not speaking at all, and yeah, then just a couple weeks later she just vanished. They searched the building up and down, but they found nothing, and they combed through it for several weeks because I guess there's lots of places. I don't know. I still don't know how she got out of the locked ward.
Yeah, that's weird. Because, like, what are the chances the one night somebody accidentally forgets to lock something that's the one that somebody tries to escape during? You know,
yeah, or wanders away.
Keddie.
Exactly.
There's
someone on duty.
I don't know if you can hear him purring. It's purring so loud. No.
They found no trace of her, and really didn't have much else they could do, so they kind of just had to give up after a while.
Sorry, we lost your wife.
I don't even know, man. Yeah. Yeah. So 42 days exactly after she'd gone missing, which was January 12th, 1979, workers went to ward number 20 to do some much needed repairs, and this was on the 4th floor in an unused ward. But when they get into the locked ward, the stench of decay.
Oh.
Yep, they found Margaret. Somehow she was in the locked ward, lying naked on the floor. I can't say that without thinking of the Torn song. I'm sorry. Lie naked on the floor. No, just me. Okay. And I'm sorry. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I've just already processed it, and now I'm doing what I do.
Right? You're like, I've edited my notes. I have typed this up.
We're gonna get some humor in there because that's what we do with dark stuff. Exactly. Yeah, no, she was definitely dead, partially decayed. Her arms were folded over her chest and her clothes were lying folded beside her. And like there's a picture of her and she actually has her arms folded. This was from when she was alive, but I should be on the drive there. And yeah.
Sounds creepy.
Weird. I know, a little bit of like a coffin type position, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Buddy.
She is a little bit haunting looking, I will say, but yeah. And they were just at a loss as to how she'd gotten there. She didn't appear to have been taken there or subject to any violence. Like, I don't think they could find any defensive wounds or anything. And then they just had to end up removing her body. And there was quite a lot of bodily fluids and a stain that formed. And like they don't even know how she died. Ugh, it's just awful. But it also has taken on this like legendary almost status, I feel like, in the articles you read. Because they're like, they start scrubbing the floor and they can't get off the stain and the stain remains forevermore. And you're like, well, she was there for a while. And then like you tried to scrub it with like bleach or whatever you did. Like,
I think I might have seen pictures from that part when I was looking up cases before I settled on mine.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I feel like it's out there.
I didn't look like anything up. Gordo, you just knocked my headphones up. Now I can't hear. No, it's not letting me load pictures. Oh.
And then Gordo's like ripping your headphones out.
I don't see any pictures.
Okay, let me see here. Like a folder, just called Schilling. Oh, did it? Wait. Am I in your abandoned cities folder? I might be in a folder because I do that, you know. Folder in a folder. Shit, sorry. I was doing that right before we were starting to record. Yeah, so a lot of sources and stuff will be like, it's a ghost stain. So it's like, okay, well, like,
I think I've heard of those before.
Yeah, like I think so. They do say, or some compared it to this other case of the Bell Maze faces. I don't know if that's how you say it in Spain, I guess. Or there was like a lady, who saw faces appearing in the walls and the floor. I don't know. I had that in here because, like, one source did mention it. But anyway, it's just like, I think I wish that there was more out on like her and her manner of death, and just like, instead of just relegating it to like this, oh, it's a creepy stain. It's like, well, no, she was a lady and like she died there and we don't know how, and it's really sad. Like,
we can try and figure out that part,
right? But it's creepy, right? Like, it does look, I don't know, looks like a body to me, and like,
because there's like discernible like arms and like legs and that kind of stuff,
so, or like kind of like a almost like a normal body, but like one of those cryptids that we talked about that had like the big weird headdress like heads and the big eyes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't remember what they were called. I think you talked about them, but I don't know.
I think the one of the pictures won't let me load it for some reason because the drive like is always weird on my laptop now. I don't know why. It doesn't let me preview anything. Just tells me like what's a picture and what's audio unless I like click into it. But for some reason that one won't load. Buddy, little
I think 2 of them were of just the stain anyway. Yes, there was even a very sciencey sounding article with people like with PhDs, and they had done an analysis of the stain, and it was like way too long. I was like, give me the too long didn't read because I ain't reading that.
Yeah, sometimes I open a source and it'll be like here's 42 pages, and I was like, nope, this is immediately close
right?
tab. Just like nope.
Yeah, that's not a surprise I want.
Yeah, can't do that.
No. So yeah, the medical examiner estimated that she had been there for probably 3 to 4 weeks already. So like almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Somehow. And then like she was naked with her clothes folded beside her, but she was in a spot that would have got a lot of sunlight, so people wondered about that, like if that was on purpose or something, or I don't know. I didn't know what to make of it.
Like laying in the sunshine.
Yeah, but also nude. I'm not sure why.
So you said she was locked. So she had left a locked ward, a locked room in a locked ward, and ended up in a different locked ward.
Yes,
that was still locked, right?
It was, and then it had not been opened for 2 years prior to this, except for when they had so it had opened 2 years prior to house some highly contagious patients, and then it apparently hadn't been opened since until that December when they had conducted the search. So supposedly she wasn't there at the time they searched the building. Or do you think that maybe that means that no, because they hadn't been opened until December, so they did a thorough search in December and they opened it then, I guess.
Yeah, but they found her in January.
Yes, which is
okay. So she was still alive at least when they did the search, right? Or she wasn't at that
I would
location
think
yet.
that would be my theory.
Huh.
Because how else? Like, because sometimes it is the simplest answer somehow. Because like she can't magic herself in there, so
yeah. And like, did anybody document keys being? Oh, somebody lost their keys.
Sure.
Or...
yeah. Well, like, I guess I think that maybe when they're doing the search, if she had been somewhere else before that, then she got in. I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if someone didn't put her there, then she'd had to have gotten there of her own volition. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really even know the exact cause of death, like, unfortunately, but probably they thought heart attack or maybe succumb to hypothermia. Because the temperatures got to like -6 Celsius, which that's not very cold to us Canadians, but the part of the hospital was unheated, like unused and unheated. So I guess it's plausible. I mean, she definitely wasn't eating anything in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Didn't think of that.
God, that's crazy. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, why hadn't they found her? Yeah, so this is where I had in my notes about that it had compared it to the Belmez faces. I'm not sure, probably saying it wrong, but that one was or the faces of Belmez, if you want to be fancy. That one said it was an alleged paranormal phenomenon in a private house in Spain. This is like, yeah, they're seeing stuff in the walls. And it started in 1971 when residents claimed images of extremely unsettling faces appearing in the concrete floor of the house. which most sources said that she was lying on concrete, which is interesting. I don't know. It's very porous, apparently, so it apparently soaks up a lot of
It does.
liquid.
Yeah, it can. I think most stone is really hard once it gets stained. It's like
Yeah,
impossible to clean if it's not like just at the surface. Like,
that could very well be.
yeah.
So it's interesting that, yeah, that they've compared it to this other paranormal case. I thought that was weird.
Huh.
Yeah, so people have taken photographs of those ones. But like this one, where Margaret died, her stain remains, and also her spirit has been seen on the grounds as well. So like sitting there, like with her arms crossed, staring, and then just like disappears. So like
Oh,
kind of
creepy.
spooky. Yeah. Um. So that one's crazy to me that it's only like what 50 some years ago or whatever. It's like, okay,
Yeah. Because
how is
like
this so
they
unsolved?
had protocols, they had security measures by that time. It
Yeah,
wasn't like,
maybe security cameras, maybe not, but
I mean, they could have. Yeah. It's a little weird
it's
that
weird.
that would have been happening like the
Excuse
80s.
me. Like,
Yeah.
I know. I started to go looking at I was gonna like dive a bit into the Reddit if there was more theories, like specific theories.
Hmm.
I didn't really see any from skimming the first couple ones. There was like the top comment was like, because that always gets pushed to the top or whatever, is like
Yeah.
how this other person, his neighbor, was found. They were like, oh, I felt so bad. Like after a week, I hadn't seen my neighbor, and they always smile at me. And then like, yeah, there was a smell, and then apparently, yeah, the person had been dead for like a week or something. What is with those stories though, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
it's old, a retired person, they don't have family or whatever, so people aren't checking in on them, and then
It
um
happens. I mean, like my mom's friend, um, she well they're like cashiers at a grocery store, and
mhm.
they had my mom's friend has this customer that always goes through, so she had kind of known him, and he is like older, and it was like kind of near the beginning of COVID when like lockdown and stuff was happening, but like grocery
Mm,
stores weren't closed down. But
yeah.
all of a sudden, like the gentleman, he normally had like a certain day and time he would typically come in and that kind of stuff, and I
Okay.
can't remember what
He's a
the
regular.
situation what the situation was, but he was older, and for whatever reason, like I think she had dropped stuff off or had talked to him, but anyway, she knew where he lived,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
she also had like his number and had tried calling him a couple times, been like, hey, I noticed like you didn't come in the store and
Oh
that kind of
no.
stuff, and then she ended up like going there and couldn't get in, but like the vehicle was there or something. But she ended up like somebody had a key. I don't know if it was a neighbor or what, but she ended up getting in there, and he had actually like he hadn't thankfully he hadn't died
Oh my
or
god.
anything, but he was stuck in his bathtub. Like he had slipped. Um I think trying to get out from he was taking a bath or something and had drained the water and then was trying to get out and had slipped and had like hurt himself, and he couldn't get out, and he had been
Oh.
stuck sitting in the bathtub for a day and a half,
Oh my
like,
god.
and stuff. And yeah, like he was taken to the hospital and everything, and they kind of said like if she hadn't have gone and like really pushed that like no, we need to go in the house and stuff, that he probably would have died within like a few more hours, because he
Oh
was in like
my
his 80s or
god.
something. So yeah,
Right. And he couldn't
all that kind of
reach
stuff.
a phone
Yeah,
or
he
anything.
couldn't get out
Ugh.
of the tub. He didn't
Ugh.
have the strength, and I think they said he was sick with COVID and everything too. So like
Oh my
it had
god.
taken all of his energy out of him and everything. So
Jeez. She's an
yeah, but
angel.
yeah, like
Oh.
she saved his life basically.
Right? There's
Yeah.
something to be said for why we, have always lived in communities and like just
Right?
forming those
So yeah, I can
bonds.
see that. I've been just like, oh, like I haven't seen so and so, and they normally have a routine, and then just having like a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry. Oh, that's so crazy. Like
yeah,
I've heard like read a couple stories like that, but then it's like it's so close at hand. It's like, ooh,
right. Yeah, it was pretty
wow.
crazy when my mom was telling me. I was like, damn, your friend saved his life. Like,
Right? Like good to hear one with a happy ending like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I have a fun little mini mini mystery that I came across in one of the listicles.
Oh, okay, a mini
it
mystery.
it was a locked safe that was found um, in Canada in Regina. Yes, it ended up in Saskatchewan.
I might have read this when I was
Did you?
looking up ones. Yeah, if it's
Yes,
the
a
one I'm
locked
thinking
safe.
of. It, yeah, I think I ran across it.
It ended up in the museum of Regina, I guess, and it looked kind of like old. I guess it was from the early 1900s. Donated in 2000, and they thought it'd been locked for like 30 years. So I'm like, ooh, this sounds good, right? And then it's like,
Hope it's full of
okay,
diamonds or
yeah,
gold.
yeah, yeah. They try to get someone to come unlock it because they don't know how, and then somebody came from like Ottawa, like didn't want to identify himself, but just some random good ass lock picking guy.
I'm
Some
a
Ocean's
bank
11 dude.
robber and like
Yeah,
that
he spent
pixelated
5 hours
robot voice.
working on it. Yeah, sorry. It's so fun. Oh yeah, he's only able to unlock half of it. He went back to Ottawa. He came back again and found the last two numbers, and they finally opened it up. And then it's like, did you remember what it said was inside
Isn't
from
it
what you
like
read?
a a locked box or something, or like another safe? It's like stupid.
Well, yes, I guess there was a second, another locked door,
Yeah.
and then they found an old key for it, antique keys, because I guess there are a lot of them the same antique keys.
Yeah, I had heard that somewhere.
That's kind of cool. I like that. That's a fun fact. And then they opened up and they find a paperclip.
Yeah, I mean, if I had lots of money, I would want to leave behind weird things that people would
Oh,
think
that's fun.
was gonna be like something so cool and just have.
Oh my god. Oh, that one. Yeah, sometimes it's like, this is one that's like, it's a little less satisfying than, having the
Yeah.
mystery. But if
But
there's
I want to do
one,
it as like a prank. Like nobody really gets hurt or anything like that, but I think it'd be funny. Just like,
right? There's one that drives me crazy that was from Reddit, and I don't know if I told you about it, but it was like this couple, and the guy said he was keeping like these special olives for his friend in the fridge, and they were in a locked box. And then he freaked out at her one day because she was cleaning the fridge and took everything out of it. And he like came home from work and was like, "You can't take these out of the fridge." And then he just never told her, but like he never let her open them. And everybody's like, "That's not fucking olives. you're you're in danger."
yeah.
Like, what? And no, she never
Yeah.
posted like an update, so nobody ever found out, and it
Oh,
haunts me to this day.
damn. That's creepy.
I hope it's fake, right? If it was just a prank, that'd be a weird prank to take. To
Yeah.
hold these olives. They're for a friend.
He only likes
Like what?
pimento.
Oh, sorry, it's cutting out. It's being stupid. All right.
No, that's weird.
Ugh, So fucking weird. Well, we did the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need like an applause button. Yay!
We do.
Or like, bow, 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 bow.
Yeah, I want the one from that guy from Superstore.
Oh, you were saying it earlier, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny.
We're about to drive everyone crazy. No.
No, we're just like, what's the easiest way we can do this for editing? Let's put our intro music in here now.
I mean, like you can lead a horse to water. I'm like, what do these buttons do? And then I have to like look it up. It's like, those buttons are there so you can add stuff. I was like, oh yeah, like your intro. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, adoy. I just thought you guys were giving us fun buttons like ballpark.
Yeah.
And yeah. I don't know. Anyway,
we'll figure it out. We're professionals.
Professionally
Gordo.
podcasting.
Gordo
Number one
and
podcast in
Fen
Canada. Don't look it up.
Our producers.
Yeah, we producing the hell out of this. So don't forget to rate, because that really helps people find us.
You can review.
You can do the thing that you got to do. If you like what we do, please rate and review. And
subscribe. You can
smash that like button. Oh my god. And next time we are back for some vampire.
Yeah. Vampire
I don't know
lore.
where I was going with that.
Vampire. I am Dracula. I am vampire.
We're coming back for some blood sucking. We're gonna talk some Twilight. No, we're not. I was saying something about the end battle in Twilight, and Pat literally interrupted me to go. I was like, and the vampires? He goes, not the vampires. I'm like, can you just let me finish my sentence? Because he has issues with their lore, which is understandable. But you don't just say like the non-vampire or whatever they call them.
She tried, okay. Stephanie Meyer, her sweet little
sparklers.
Mormon, her Mormon heart tried. Her Mormon
don't get me started.
Tried to write a romance.
Oh, next time we do, which we are doing for this month, we are also doing some more bad writing, bad dialogue for this Patreon this month. But we should definitely do some the next time where it's all the Mormon ones, because oh my god, the 50 Shades.
Yeah.
I only watched one of the movies and I have not read any of them, but I did hear them covered on that podcast I've been listening to, and it was hilarious. I was like, well, yeah, why is this happening? And this is the kinkiest it gets. Okay. Like it's funny.
Yeah.
All right, well, stay tuned for that and for our vampire episode, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.
Keep it cryptic.
Hi, my name is Mallory Jenner Robinson. Join me on A Hateful Homicide, a true crime and investigative journalism podcast dedicated to telling the stories regarding the murders and hate crimes of our transgender, non-binary, intersex, and two-spirit community members in the United States and abroad. This is A Hateful Homicide.
Thank you for listening to Castles and Cryptids. We love all our listeners and appreciate every subscriber, every new review, every listen, rate, and download. Our music is by Kobe Off Air, and our cover art is by Antonio Garcia. We are also a proud member of Darkcast Network, where you can find the best and spookiest of all indie podcasts. Follow us on social media, where we are at Castles and Cryptids on mostly all of the things, now including TikTok. Check out our bonus content on Patreon. Cryptid clashes, video minisodes of your host making asses of themselves, Ask Me Anything, quizzes, other special episodes, and more. Starting at just $2 a month, you can get 1 to 2 extra episodes, depending on your level. We produce, edit, and research everything ourselves, and any support you can lend helps us to keep it cryptic.